So the tough part when you come after such a brilliant session is to ensure you can do a good transition and that you can still capture the audience interest. And considering that we're going from great topic to better topic and even better topic, I think we'll let people a bit of a minute to connect, rejoice, greet, and ponder on this very, very good session moderated by our friend. Get a loan in 5 seconds. And you know, when you talk about getting a loan in 5 seconds, because it sounds crazy until you engage with cryptocurrencies. So 5 seconds is a very long time for a company like Yellow Card. 5 seconds is like, you know, 3 generations in the crypto world, you know? We count in fractions of seconds. So we're very privileged today to have with us Chris Morris, founder and CEO of Yellow Card Group, who also is a winner of the Disruptor of the Year. Please, a round of applause for Chris. So Chris, tell me, first of all, congratulations for the award, right? It's well deserved. I've been following you for quite some time now across Africa. Your passion, your commitment, your support for the SMEs, the corporates, the people of this continent, and it has to be saluted. So please, another round of applause, because what he's doing is pretty exceptional. So Yellow Card, in a few words, tell us a bit. So I think you're the only licensed exchange on the continent. You have billions of dollars of transaction. Please explain. Give the audience a bit of who you guys are and what you've achieved so far.
Yes, amazing. Well, thank you, sir. It's good to be here. So Yellow Card, we're the largest stablecoin on and off ramp on the continent. We operate in 20 countries all across Africa. We've done over $2 billion in transactions, all within the continent. And you know, really, I think the disruptor and all of that speaks to just the power of stablecoins, right? And the power of this technology and what this technology is doing across the world, but especially in Africa. And I think, you know, with winning that, I think the coolest part is that a company that brands itself as a cryptocurrency company was able to win an award at a financial summit, right, with a bunch of bankers voting on it.
Yes.
So
it takes
I think,
a lot.
you know,
so yeah, congratulations.
It says how far the industry has come.
You know, there's this thing about your award, that's famous quote, which is, if you can't beat them, join them, right? So it really symbolized something major to have a digital asset cryptocurrency company come at such an event of this magnitude and rise to that level. So my question to you is, what would you call stable coin for the audience to really understand a bit better? And what is your core business, and what problem do you solve for the customer?
Yeah, so stablecoins, for those that aren't familiar, are tokens like USDT, USDC, PYUSD. There are a couple of more, but those are really the main ones. And what it is it's tokens that can be transferred on blockchain, which, like you said, 5 seconds is slow. It's tokens that can be transferred on blockchain that are pegged to the US dollar. So every token is worth $1 US, and you're able to essentially move dollars on chain, right? So you don't have the volatility of Bitcoin or anything else in the space, thus the phrase stable. And you know, when you look at use cases, right, it's people are using stable coins for anything that they use hard currency for, anything that they use dollars for, right? For international payments, for remittance, for savings, you know, hedging against inflation, hedging against risk, right? People run to the dollar for all kinds of different reasons. And stable coins are now just a better, more effective way of actually being able to access dollars.
Okay, now the question, when you look into that, when you think of countries like Nigeria or Kenya who are struggling to effectively have enough dollars, how would you how do you address this problem in terms of forex, and also in a context where you have the Pan-African payment system and this big push for intra-African trade? How do you position in that, and how do stable coins solve that problem?
Yeah, so I think, when you look at countries that are struggling with Forex right now, right, which a lot of countries across the African continent are in that position, Nigeria, like you mentioned, Malawi, a number of others, when you look at that, that's part of the reason why the regulators in some of these countries have started to adopt and look more towards crypto regulation, right? Because these guys are smart, right? I think in fintech, people look down on regulators, but regulators are smarter than people think, right? They understand the market, they understand their country very well. And one thing that stablecoins are doing is stablecoins actually help keep hard currency in the country, right? The Reserve Bank, the central bank can hold hard US dollars, and stablecoins can still help the economy to function, right? It can help imports and exports to continue to flow without hard dollars having to actually leave the central bank. Okay. And so it's sort of the best of both worlds, right? You get to keep the dollars in country to help, prop up currency, to help with, maintaining debt, things like that. And the economy gets to continue to function, right? The economy gets to continue to grow while those dollars sit there.
Okay, makes sense. Now, the question is, do you see, 25, 30 years ago, internet wasn't there for banks to use. Now, banks are the biggest users of actually internet capacity, etc. Now you have the next wave, which is what you call Web3, literally, and digital asset, cryptocurrency, stable coins. How do you see the banks adopting this, knowing that they didn't react to the, let's say, digital asset crypto world the same way as they reacted with internet? So here they're seeing it as some still see it as a threat, not so many, it's progressing, but some still are still skeptical about it. So how do you see the adoption, the evolution of this particular trend?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, bankers and large banks have been around for many decades, right? Yeah. Some of the best and biggest banks in the world, more than 100 years at this point. And, think about how far technology has come in the past 5 or 10 years, never mind 100 years, right? These banks are actually more innovative than they like to think themselves. And so, with a new technology like stablecoins, like crypto more broadly, it's really in the bank's best interest to adopt it in a similar way that banks have adopted the internet, right? You go back 20 years, all transactions had to happen offline because the internet wasn't really around, right? Now, every single transaction that you do, I couldn't tell you the last time I walked into a bank branch, right? Every single transaction that you do is happening online. Yeah. It's happening on an app. It's happening, just through the internet.
So you see crypto basically being the next big adoption challenge for banks, really.
100%. Yeah. It's, this is the next technology that banks should be the first ones jumping on the bandwagon of.
Actually, you have a point, right? If you look at the oil industry, the biggest investors in renewable energies and renewable technologies are actually the traditional oil industries, right? So they went on that journey in being in the next game. So definitely, if I were a bank, then since you're solving this major Forex issue, then you should be the perfect target for them to acquire and disrupt the market themselves, I would say, right?
Of course, yeah. You can either go the way of VHS technology, or you can go the way of Netflix, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay, I get that.
Those are the options, right? And so it's again, these banks have done this even within the past 20 so years, right? Even within, most of our lifetimes, these banks have actually done this. They've adopted online banking. They've adopted, internet transactions. They've adopted wires where you don't have to walk into a bank branch anymore. And so stablecoins are, it really is surprising to me that more banks haven't invested and really looked into it, because within the next 10 years, people are not going to make international wires anymore. People are going to use stable coins for all of these cross-border transactions, right? All these intermediary banks that, you know, make $30 to $40 off every leg and hop in the transaction. All that revenue is going to go away because of technology. And so you either have to get on board and adapt and be part of that technological advancement, or you get left behind.
Yeah, so this is the expression I used to use with some of my friends, fellow bankers. I'm a former banker myself, been in that space for more than almost 2 decades, and I tell them, guys, you gotta try, buy, or die. Right? It's a reality. The market is moving in a particular direction, and you can't stop it, right? So no matter what you say, crypto, the train has left the station, correct? Right? And despite all the attempts, and I mean, the funny thing is that 2 years ago, 90 countries were already working on the central bank digital currencies. Now you had 140. But the funny thing, the banks that are supposed to be the innovative one, the one forward, are still dabbling with it. While the central banks themselves have already pushed into bringing those stable coins, into bringing those digital, these blockchain-powered assets onto the thing. So what, if you had one word to tell you know, the people who want to get into the cryptocurrency space, who all have this issue about, you know, shifting their money from one place to another, what would you tell them?
Oh, I don't think I could do that in one word.
Okay, one sentence or one paragraph.
You know, I think for especially, I think, you know, relevant to this audience, right? Mostly banks and regulators, central banks, et cetera. It's like you said, the train has left the station, and there's no reverse, right? We're not going to go back to a time before the internet, and we're not going to go back to a time before crypto. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. You're never going to be without it. And so it's you know, really a matter of, for banks, for central banks, for regulators, it's a matter of, do you want people to do it underground the way that a lot of them are doing it now? Do you want people to trade amongst themselves, get scammed, get ripped off, you know, run into all of these other issues? Or do you want to regulate it and make it safe, make it, you know, accessible for people and keep it above board? And those are really the two options, because people are doing this all over the world. It doesn't matter if a country, you know, tries to make it illegal. It doesn't matter if a country tries to overregulate it. People are still using crypto in all of those countries. China and Russia, two of the, you know, the bigger crypto users in the world, both of them tried to ban it, right? So do you want people to do it underground? Do you want to create a black market, or do you want to regulate it and make it safe for people?
Actually, you have a point, right? When you think of cannabis regulation in the US, for instance, with medical cannabis and so on, it's become one of the biggest industry in the United States that are really first helped cure people and save some lives, but also became quite a big business that generated significant amount of taxes for those governments. So sometimes, you know, there's this quote, you know, that says, from Gandhi, that says, first they laugh at you, then they ignore you, then they fight you, and then you win. Right? And you know, you and I have been engaging in so many places around the world, conferences, pushing that battle and carrying the African agenda in terms of how do we fast-track financial inclusion. So are we winning? I think you are. You won yesterday, and you're doing 2 billion plus transactions or whatever. So what's the next game?
You know, I think what's really unique to me about this space and this technology is it's the first technologies, at least in my lifetime, that Africa is really in the driver's seat and in a position to win.
Thank you.
And so, you know, I think, look, with the internet, the continent was late to the internet, right? It was much later than, you know, North America and Europe and other parts of the world. With crypto and with this technology, nobody has won yet. It's still an open playground.
Yeah.
And this is really the opportunity. And we've seen this in countries like Botswana and a number of other countries that have actually put out crypto regulations. But this is an opportunity to bring in a ton of revenue, a ton of jobs, to bring in, I mean, a burgeoning new industry, a lot of tech.
Yeah.
And like I said, look, the U.S. is not gonna, get there anytime soon, right? All the other countries around the world are sort of moving very slowly on it. If regulators across the continent can adapt and can make a move on it, this is really a technology that is here to stay and that Africa can win.
And that's powerful because it was the same with M-Pesa, with mobile money, right? Once we got to the same level playing field and got GSM at the same pace as the others, suddenly we built a whole new industry that became disruptive and made us leader. And to your point with crypto, it's pretty open, and it's indeed in the hands of not just regulators, but also entrepreneurs like you, like others, to embark on it, because the more get onto it, then the more it will make sense. And African creativity would effectively lead the way in that sense. So, because it's probably the continent that needs it the most, right? Now, the question that comes to me is the question of tokenization, right? And I know we've discussed that. So before you start tokenize, you need a stable coin, right? So you're laying the foundations to be able to pay for tokenized assets, right? How do you see the tokenization market of assets, which is something, as you know, I've been pushing in terms of underground resources, intellectual property, music, and so on. What's your take on that?
I think tokenization is extremely powerful, and it gives people, companies, and countries a way of actually maintaining and benefiting from not just music and IP, but even natural resources, right? You're talking about the most resource-rich continent in the world that, I mean, quite frankly, has been screwed over by the rest of the world for, decades, around oil, around gold, around diamonds, around all of this, right? And tokenization of some of these assets is a solution for that, right? It's a way to actually keep value in the continent, keep value in the country.
And that's why we're very excited, because we tokenize gold, and we're working with Yellow Card because we cover Africa. You're the only player, actually, we can effectively work with if we want to reach out to the whole continent. And once you start tokenizing gold, indeed, you want to be able to have stable coins to be able to move things, etc. And when you're stuck with local currencies, how do you deal with that? So for me, when we talk about tokenization, building the infrastructure the same way as Bitcoin and Ethereum put layer 1, right? You're building that infrastructure for new ideas, new things, to be able to be traded from those stable coins and from those level playing field that you bring in one place where you're no longer stuck because you're from Malawi and nobody wants your currency, right? And this access to the global economy, which I've been promoting, seeing you doing it, I salute you for that. Now, what is very interesting, I'm going to close with this very interesting song that everybody knows, and linked to tokenization, and I'll link it back to Yellow Card. Does anybody know this song? Zamina mina, waka waka, zamina mina zangalewa. So, thank you, well done. You know the song. So who sang it? Shakira? Thank you. Absolutely not. Now, let me explain to you the point of that song. Shakira actually just borrowed that song from musicians from my country, Cameroon, that sang it. I was 9, 10, 12-year-old, and we used to sing it at home all the time. And it was like a go for war, go to win song. And then we hear it 20 years later. You're going to see where I want to come to. And everybody thinks it's Shakira. And I'm like, dude, no. This is my own people from my village back home who's been singing it. But they didn't have blockchain, right? They couldn't put the song on a repository to know that it's theirs. They couldn't monetize it. Meaning, okay, everybody buys a fractionalized piece of it and then can go and sell it and get the stable coins from Yellow Card to get the cash. That's why I say it's very important, once we get the possibility with the right exchange on the ground and our creativity, our assets, to be able to be traded with, and regardless of the weakness of our currencies, that's where you're going to see the African continent not just take off, skyrocket. And I thank you and I salute you for what you're doing. And if you had one paragraph, not a word, to say to the audience, and if I was a bank, definitely I would go and acquire. By the way, maybe Ubuntu will, let's speak after these things, before the bank comes and buys yellow card. But what would you want to share with the audience?
It's not too late.
It's not too late, yeah.
It's not too late. It's a new industry. Now's the time. Now's the time to get in. Now's the time to get involved, especially for banks, especially for governments.
Thank you. So you heard it. It's not too late. We can make it happen, and it's in our hands, right? So thank you very much, Chris. Congratulations.
Thank you,
and thank you, everyone. Well done.